I think it's I firstly think it's probably related to a slowdown in their growth and their need to make new blood cells, and so their requirements for iron reduce, and so they're able to catch up even just through their normal diet on in terms of their iron stores, and certainly as children. As anyone who has kids knows, as children get beyond 2 years of age, they are able to consume more food. They're also, of course, where food is fortified, able to access fortified food, and other, and as long as they're receiving a broad and comprehensive diet, then they should, if their iron intake is adequate, then they should be able to catch up on where they're on their iron losses early, or the iron deficiency earlier on. And that's probably why we start seeing hemoglobins improve or increase and the prevalence of anemia reduce in kids as they get into late preschool age and then into the school age. Yeah, so it's possible. So I think that I don't think I'd disagree that iron deficiency is a risk factor for adverse brain development, particularly in the hippocampus, and that's critical for development of higher cognitive functions in the long term. What I'm concerned about is whether iron interventions given to babies, particularly after 6 months of age, I'm not convinced yet that the data are there to support those interventions as being beneficial on those developmental outcomes. And my argument would be that if it's not beneficial, then it's maybe not an overall beneficial intervention, and that we should be looking at other ways to ensure that babies are not becoming iron deficient and to protect the brain. So certainly the data on iron fortification and infection are weaker. There is some evidence that iron fortification, for example, of biscuits or home fortification of food in a couple of countries in the Ivory Coast and in Kenya, there has been some studies showing adverse effects on the microbiota, but the effects on clinical outcomes such as diarrhea, malaria, I'm not so sure that we've found those effects, but that's probably largely because we haven't looked carefully, and until we've looked carefully, we can't exclude them. That said, obviously the dose of iron that children receive from fortification is a lot lower than the 12.5 milligrams they receive daily from, say, iron supplementation. We're lucky that there have been at least 2 very recent large randomized controlled trials which specifically address the question of whether it's safe to give iron to women in pregnancy. And they were both done in sub-Saharan Africa. And in both cases, those trials showed that there was no increase in malaria or in other infection-related adverse events, including placental malaria, in mothers who were given the iron. And what was incredible was that in one of the trials where they took women who, included in that group, women who were anemic, they saw an improvement in birth weight of around about 150 grams in the women randomized to iron. Now that's an incredible improvement in birth weight, and if that is translated across populations, we'll see reductions in low birth weight, in prematurity, and that will have enormous benefits to babies as well as to the mothers.